Hi, my name is Alden MacDonald and I'm the executive chef here at Northern Michigan University, and today we're going to make sweet potato brownies. That's right, I said sweet potato brownies. These are delicious. It's a great way to use up, say you have 1 or 2 sweet potatoes left over from doing roasted sweet potatoes, or say you got a bundle of sweet potatoes, you need to use them up because they're starting to sprout little eyes or something. This is a great recipe to use. It's also a good one to do with kids to get them to think differently about their food and look at our vegetables a little differently as well. So we are going to start with talking about roasting our sweet potatoes. The first thing you do with this recipe is you're going to pre-roast your sweet potatoes. What I have here is a sweet potato that I roasted, and I wanted to show you. If you notice, it doesn't look firm anymore. The skin is really, really loose, and I can just take it and peel that skin right off, and that's what we want. We want it to peel right off. Also, as you're roasting these, if you stick a fork in it, and it gives you a little resistance, that means it's not done yet. A regular potato, if you're roasting this to say put butter and cinnamon on it for like dinner, you'd say, that's perfect. No, we want them beyond cooked. So when you stick your fork in here and it gives you a little resistance, cook it another 10 or 15 minutes in the oven until it's, when you press it in there, it just goes whoosh, right through the potato. And that way you make sure that you can mash it really easily for these brownies. So once these have come out of the oven, you're gonna peel them and you're gonna put them in your bowl and you're gonna let them cool completely. Once they're cooled completely, I went ahead and mashed them. I just mashed them up with my hands. It was fun. You just mash them up, make sure they're cool completely, obviously, because if they come out of the oven, they're gonna be blazing hot in the center. So you could roast these ahead of time, leave them out and then put them in your refrigerator overnight, and then you could mash them the next day as well. So those are the mashed up sweet potatoes. To this, we're just gonna add some peanut butter, cocoa powder, maple syrup, vanilla, and sugar, or not sugar, salt. Then at the end, I'm gonna sprinkle some chocolate chips on top because mini chocolate chips make everything better. So I'm gonna just take my peanut butter here. It's 1 cup of peanut butter. If you don't want to do peanut butter, you could also do almond butter. That would also work in this recipe. Just understand it does change the flavor profile slightly. And I'm mixing this up with my spatula. You could also, if you have little kids, it'd be fun to do this by hand. And I will tell you a little secret or a cheat is this mixes up really well in a food processor, or you can do it with a hand mixer. That works too. You want to mix it up really, really well. My sweet potatoes probably could have been cooked just a teeny bit longer, so they're not quite as mushy as I'd like them, but you want that really well incorporated so that you don't have a lot of huge chunks. A few little chunks are fine though. This is maple syrup. That's right, I said maple syrup. You don't have to use maple syrup. You could use just like a tabletop syrup a little bit. Or say you have some leftover sweet potatoes from after a holiday meal that have marshmallows or something on them. You could actually take those and omit the maple syrup completely, mix it all together with your cocoa powder and your peanut butter, and you can make brownies out of that, which is a great way to reutilize some leftovers in your house that, you know, after the big turkey day, what are you gonna do with those candied sweet potatoes? Ugh. You're getting tired of looking at them. Put them, make them brownies. Then I'm going to add cocoa powder. One thing about cocoa powder to think of is that if it's really clumpy, make sure that you break those clumps up because cocoa powder is not sweet. In fact, it's a little bitter if you don't break it up. So if you see that your cocoa powder has a lot of clumps in it, just make sure that you're either breaking those up or sifting your cocoa powder. So I'm mixing this all together. It's gonna be really thick. It's supposed to be really thick. There we go. Then once this is incorporated, or mostly incorporated, we're going to throw in our salt. I always like to sprinkle my salt. And the reason I like to sprinkle my salt is so that you don't get little salt pockets in your cooking. And then vanilla, we're just gonna put that in there. Okay, and we're just mixing together. Once this is well incorporated, which I got almost here, we're gonna put it in our pan. Now, in the recipe it says a 9x9 pan. Notice this is a round pan, not a square pan. That's because I didn't have a 9x9 pan. And notice my brownies are gonna turn out just as good in this 9-inch round cake pan that I did have as they would in a 9x9 pan. So sometimes when we're trying out new recipes, I know that when I was a new cook in the world, I would get kind of paralyzed by the fact that I didn't have exactly the right equipment. And I'd be like, oh, well, I can't make that. I don't have this perfect pan. I don't have this perfect utensil or whatever it was. And then as I started cooking more and more, I learned that, hey, you don't have to have every gadget, every perfect pan, every perfect utensil to still make really good food and use an existing recipe. So don't be intimidated by that. Just find another pan that has approximate size and use that. And that's what I did. Okay, this is really well incorporated now. And it really will just come right out. Bloop. Sound effects are always helpful when you're cooking. And I'm just going to squish this down with my spatula. Squish, squish. Pretty easy. Let's move that out of the way. And I'm going to press this into the pan so that it goes all the way out to the edge. These don't do anything but cook in here. So whatever you make the top look like is pretty much what it's going to come out to be. So be aware of that. I did spray this with pan spray. You can use parchment paper if you like. I find that with brownies. Just make sure that if you have a nonstick pan like this, don't use a metal utensil to cut the brownies or get them out, because you'll scratch that nonstick surface and then it will no longer nonstick. It will stick. Then I have some mini chocolate chips. I'm just going to sprinkle those on top because 1, yum, and 2, it looks adorable. I'm going to put these in the oven. Let me grab my towel here. I'm going to put these in the oven and they bake for about 30 minutes. And when they're done, they look like this. And as you can see, you're going to want to let those cool completely before you get them out of the pan. But you can see they kind of pull a little away from the edge, but they're nice and cakey. And you're going to be able to pop those right out of the pan once they cool a little bit, cut them up and enjoy. And there you have it, your sweet potato brownies. Enjoy.